What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right. So before I get into this video, I want to give a shout out to Ticket TV because he's the first one to report this, and that is that LeBron James has re-aggravated that abdominal rectus injury that he suffered earlier this season. The same injury that caused him to miss, I think it was 8 games earlier this year, and he had already re-aggravated that injury some games before, but he re-aggravated it again late in the game against the Detroit Pistons. I think he was going up for a layup. A Piston player tried to contest the shot. LeBron James, I guess, moved in a certain way, twisted to sort of avoid either the shot block or the contact, and he re-aggravated the injury. And LeBron James vowed to play tonight's game against the Sacramento Kings. Um, but and I agree with what the brother Ticket said. I think it would be better if LeBron James was to take some time off. I remember reading the opinion of a former NBA trainer who has knowledge of players or of athletes that have suffered that same type of injury. And he said usually the recovery time for that type of injury is 4 to 8 weeks, depending upon the severity of the injury and I guess the age of the athlete. And LeBron only took something like 2 weeks, I guess, off, a little over 2 weeks maybe, and that's not enough. He probably needed to take at least another 2 weeks off, minimum. Now look, the Lakers aren't in the same position that the Warriors in. You know what I'm saying? If the Lakers were 18-2, then LeBron James could afford to take the necessary time to fully heal. But I guess because the Lakers are 500, because their schedule is about to get really rocky starting in December onward, a lot of road games, right? And when you look at the expectations that people had for this team coming into this season, with all of these so-called stars on this team and the heavy expectations, and the fact when you consider that LeBron James is largely responsible for all these guys being here, I guess he feels that he has to go out there and perform because without him, uh, you know, this season might be lost. Probably would be lost. But this is the thing, though, when you think about it, this team got Russell Westbrook just for uh, you know to have insurance just in case LeBron James gets injured, or to have a guy that supposedly can run the offense and can still score at a high clip in the event that LeBron's not playing. Plus, you have Anthony Davis, who's supposed to be in his prime right now. Did you know Anthony Davis is third all time in PER? Now, PER is one of those. I know that fucking Max Kellerman loves that fucking stat, but Anthony Davis is third all time in PER rating. Historically, of all the NBA players that have ever played, he's third. You know who's second? LeBron James, right? So AD supposed to be in his absolute prime. Carmelo is still has a lot left in the tank. Uh, this team has talent. They should be able to win games at least against the bottom feeders of the NBA with ease. They shouldn't be in this position. They should at least be in the position with the Nets are, but they're not. They're struggling against and struggling to hold leads against bad teams, which is unacceptable. Unacceptable. You know what I'm saying? So with, even without LeBron James, this team should still be beating the bottom tier and bottom feeders and you know even average teams in the NBA. You know, and I think that if LeBron keeps playing with this injury, the risk of him suffering an even more severe injury is just that much higher, especially considering that he's an older athlete, you know. And it's happened before. I've given this example a couple times, but Boston Celtics Kevin McHale, right? The 1986-87 season was the best season of his career. And I think in March of 87, he was the player of the week. I think he averaged something like 30, that's just something like 34 points, 10 rebounds, 3 blocks, 75% from shooting from the floor, great defense. I mean, just he was the best player, arguably, in basketball, arguably, for that little stretch. And then he started having pain in his foot. And it was discovered by team doctors that he had a stress fracture. Now, he had two choices. He could have had surgery and shut it down and be ready to play the next season, or to continue playing. He could have kept playing on it, but it would have gotten worse, and he ran the risk of breaking his foot, which is a very complicated type injury because you don't have as much blood flow to your feet and lower extremities. So those type of things can never heal. Sometimes can never heal properly. You know what I'm saying? And McHale chose to keep playing. The challenge was, as defending NBA champions at the time, to become the first team since the '69 Celtics to repeat. Ultimately, that would be the team that would beat them in the finals. The Lakers would do it in '88. They would become the first team to repeat. But he decided to play. He soldiered on. Throughout the playoffs, he was noticeably limping around. Um, the space in the fracture got worse. And then, during the off season, I believe he had surgery, but the damage had been done, and he was never the same player afterwards. Then there's another example that comes to mind. I can't remember the guy's name. He was a college player. I think his name was it Marcus Ware? I think it was Marcus Ware, and he was playing with a stress fracture in his leg, and he knew it, but he had played with it, and I think that he was going up for a rebound, and he came down, and his leg literally fucking collapsed on television. We all remember when it happened. I think he was playing with the Maryland Terrapins. I think it was Maryland, but his leg broke in 3 places on TV, and it was a ghastly, injury, and it was the result of him playing on a stress fracture. Now, uh, everything, those types of injuries are different, of course, but LeBron does run the risk of suffering a more severe injury. You know what I'm saying? With KD, he had the lower leg injury, but he wanted to play a couple years ago. He finally was cleared to play, and then just 10 minutes or so into playing, he ruptured his Achilles. So it's like, you know, man, I want him to be healthy, but it's like LeBron. We're not used to seeing this with this guy. We're used to seeing him being extraordinarily durable, and he's one of the most durable players we've seen in the history of the league. Going back to Dolph Schayes, he's Iron Man, Dolph Schayes, and Johnny Red Kerr, Randy Smith, Elvin Hayes, Karl Malone, AC Green. All these guys that can. It seemed like they just never got hurt, or if they did get hurt, their pain threshold was much higher than normal. And it's unusual to see LeBron James, kind of like having these injury issues. But Father Time is undefeated, and really, what should happen, man, is the other Lakers really need to fucking step up and stop waiting for LeBron to play the lead all the damn time. This is not the same LeBron James from 5 years ago. Okay, he will have games where he'll play like that LeBron, but he's not going to be as consistent as he once was. And AD is the guy that I really look at because he's supposed to be the best player on this team, you know. But it is what it is. What it is. All these guys, AD, uh, Westbrook, Carmelo. I know he's not getting enough shots. He need to get in somebody's face. Maybe he need to confront Russ. Give me the fucking ball when I'm going. Whatever. Frank Vogel, everybody, they need to step up because they're gonna run LeBron James into the fucking ground. Seriously, they're gonna run this motherfucker into the ground, man. But tell me what you guys think.